College football week 11. Only one place to start. Number 3, Michigan travels to take on number 10, Penn State. They're in Happy Valley. That'll be big noon kickoff on Fox. So 11 a.m. Central. Michigan currently a 5-point favorite. Michigan has destroyed everything in their path this season, but this is by far the most talented team that they've played. They've got to go on the road. That's going to be a supercharged environment there. Ted, any chance that Penn State can pull this off?
There's a chance, but I'm leaning Michigan and leaning Michigan heavy. It's crazy that with all of the distractions that have gone on, that they've still been as good as they've been. Now, they haven't been tested much. I mean, there's definitely some truth to that. But, it's not like the distractions just started with the signal situation. You had off-season stuff. You had, your head coach, was suspended for a bunch of the early season games. Like, it's been a weird year, and they have just continued to march right through all of that stuff. So I know there's outside a lot of noise and a lot of things happening. That seems to be the norm for this team this year. And I don't think it's going to change when they go on the road against Penn State. Give me Michigan.
Yeah, the distractions are they've been there and they've got more. Now
Yeah.
you've got, hey, did these other teams, they had Michigan signals last year and they share it. So that's become this huge talking point with Michigan's fan base. You've got Blake Corum on paper in an LLC with Connor Stallions. Like, what? This whole thing keeps getting weirder and weirder. But ultimately, the best thing about football is it gets decided between the white lines. And Michigan's a better football team than Penn State. Now, will they be able to handle the environment? I think they're going to be fine. I think that I trust J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum, that Michigan defense. I trust them to make enough plays to win comfortably in this game. I do not trust James Franklin to have his team prepared in a way to knock what I believe is the best team in the country off. If Penn State wants to make this interesting, they absolutely have to produce explosive plays offensively. And they just haven't this season. That goes for Allen and Singleton in that run game, and it goes for Drew Aller in that passing attack. They have not produced explosive plays. All of a sudden, they're going to produce them against one of the best defenses in the country. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think the Nittany Lions could just grind it out against this Michigan team. It's not going to happen. So I'm with you. Even though there's all kinds of crazy stuff surrounding this program right now, I like Michigan, and I like them by double digits.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Penn State, their game, what they usually do is, I guess, somewhat similar to how Michigan operates, but it's just you're going up against a brick wall, and you've got to be able to create some type of down the field stuff like that. And that just, I don't know. It's really a horrible matchup for Penn State because you're going against someone that is really just a lot better at everything that you try to do than you are, So I like Michigan, and I know Penn State is a tough place to play, and that's going to be an awesome atmosphere, but Michigan just flat out, they're too much. They're too talented. Edge on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Yeah, I don't see Penn State winning it, but you never know. A couple of crazy things happen in a football game. You never know what could happen, but everything in this one, to me, screams Michigan.
I feel like it should be against the law for this game to be at 12 Eastern.
I know.
It's a
You need to see
massive
that
game. Let's get this thing. And I
the whiteout
understand.
at night.
Yeah. I understand it gets cold this time of the year up there in Big Ten country. I get it. But I don't know. This one feels so big to have it in that slot. I don't just doesn't feel right to me.
I agree. I agree.
Moving on to the next game. Number 9 Ole Miss is heading down to Athens, Georgia to take on the number 2 Dogs. That game will be 6 p.m. on ESPN. Georgia currently a 10.5-point favorite. Ted, I thought Ole Miss early this week, I was thinking about this game, and I thought Ole Miss would give Georgia a game because of that offense. But then I saw Kirby Smart publicly challenge Georgia fans to make it the craziest atmosphere in the history of Sanford Stadium. And I won't lie, that changed my mind. Ted, I think Georgia's going to roll Ole Miss. I think that's what's going to happen here.
I got to tell you, I watched the Ole Miss A&M game, and I think you probably heard me talking about this like during breaks of the broadcast and stuff. It like the first half of that football game is just so it's just bad. It's not good football. It's not. Now, they got things rolling in the second half and started making some plays and doing some better stuff, but I'm telling you, man, what I was watching did not look good. And I think Georgia is going to absolutely stomp Ole Miss. Like, if they play anywhere near how they played in the first half against Texas A&M, it's going to be 35-0 at halftime, at least. And at that point, it doesn't matter. So I know it's a fairly tight spread, 10 and a half. I don't think Ole Miss is anywhere close to Georgia's level. And you add on the fact that, like what you said with Kirby, right? That's going to be a buzzsaw at 6 p.m.
I think the most interesting thing is, can Jackson Dart's mobility give Georgia's defense trouble? Right? We saw Brady Cook's mobility from Missouri give him some trouble. So, and Dart he is capable of doing damage with his legs. There's no doubt. I think Georgia, even though that defensive line, it's not at the elite level that it has been the last couple of years, it's still good. I think they're going to slow Quinshon Judkins down. I think this game's going to be on Jackson Dart. And I just don't know if that guy's capable of playing the way he'll need to play in the passing game to pick Georgia apart. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to need to see that before I believe it. So on the other side, I think Georgia's going to be willing to open it up a little offensively.
Yeah.
Georgia is the best offense Ole Miss has seen since LSU. And Jaden Daniels threw it for like 415 yards in that game. Carson Beck is capable of something similar. He's capable of pushing it down the field. And I'm not saying they're going to abandon the run game with Dejon Edwards. That's not what I'm saying. I just think that Ole Miss can be exposed in the back end of that defense. So I want it to be an entertaining game. I want it to be close. I think college football is better when Lane Kiffin has a really good football team. I just think it's more entertaining. But we could see sad Lane Kiffin in the postgame press conference in this one. I envision this one getting out of hand.
Yeah. Well, we've seen quiet Lane Kiffin so far this week, right? At least from what I've noticed. I think he knows when to pick and choose. And you're right about Georgia's offense. Most forgotten about unit in the entire country, right? And they are really, really good. And their quarterback, smart with the football, can make all the throws. They're talented at the skill positions. They just get no credit for anything and just quietly move along. Yeah, I'm wrong all the times, but I see this being a beatdown.
I think the most entertaining outcome is Ole Miss winning, because then we get Cloud 9 Lane Kiffin I can't. If that happened, it'd be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be wildly entertaining.
All kinds of dog pictures coming across the timeline. And did you see the dog go out and get the kicking tee for Ole Miss? Has that always been a thing?
It's a talented dog.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Any other games this weekend? When you look at some of these matchups, we've got Utah, Washington, USC at Oregon, Tennessee at Missouri, Miami at Florida State. Things are not going well for Miami. My goodness. Any of those tickle your fancy?
Yeah, I think the Utah Washington game is interesting. You know, Washington, they put it on, they got it rolling again against USC, but you know, they've struggled some lately. And if they screw around the way they did, you know, in a couple of previous weeks, Utah is going to win. They're going to beat them. So I'm really interested to see that football game. Utah's defense is playing really good. USC Oregon is interesting. Brian Odom's going to be calling defense there for USC, which is
Come on, Odom.
Yeah. So last time he called it was against Oregon in the Alamo Bowl for Oklahoma. So pretty interesting there. Oregon is, you know, whenever they made it a point to do what they did to Colorado, it's going to be the same thing, unfortunately, for USC, because if you go back to some of the preseason talk between the two staffs, and I guess it mainly just came from Oregon, but if USC had any idea of going out, or Lincoln going out to the West Coast and dominating recruiting, Oregon is going to try and put an absolute end to that this weekend. So that's going to be a tough one for USC.
I hope the defense plays well. I'm rooting for our guy Odom. It's a great opportunity for him.
Yes, it is.
Now, while I disagree with a lot of the schematics of Alex Grinch's defense, he's an awesome guy. Mm-hmm. And I hope that, you know, I hope it's a good reset for me, lands somewhere and has a ton of success, because he was always great to me. And I think he's a stand-up guy. So it was a move Lincoln Riley needed to make. And Odom's got an awesome opportunity, but I'm rooting for Grinch, man. I really am, because he's one of the cooler dudes I've encountered since I've been doing this, whatever media thing you want to call it. He was really cool to me.
And, you know, I think probably for the long run, it's going to be a good thing for Alex Grinch to separate from Lincoln Riley a little bit and kind of take stock of you know, what's worked and what hasn't, and, you know, try and rebuild his career, and we'll see where he ends up. I mean, he'll have some opportunities, and same thing with Brian Odom. You know, it's a growth opportunity for those guys.
The only other thing about this weekend slate, Miami, Florida State, it's got to hurt Miami fans' soul to see that spread. 14.5. Now, I know that Miami just lost to NC State, so it seems like that thing has come off the tracks a little bit there. There's a little mystery if Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson are going to play for Florida State, but man, things have gone downhill quickly for Mario Cristobal in that group. There was at the start of the season, with the way that they were playing, there was some positivity, and not so much anymore.
I think Cristobal's a good coach, and they've had some good backing there, and they've you know, had a bump in recruiting, but if he can't get it done, I think I'm finally leaving the program for dead. Like, it can't happen for whatever reason. I don't know enough about the ins and outs of what goes on there, but it seems to be an incredibly difficult job.
They've lost 3 of their last 5. Their 2 wins in double overtime and in overtime. Been a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.